Hello everyone. So let's continue utilizing ChatGPT to learn coding a lot better. Um, so in the last video, we had seen how we can use ChatGPT to understand a concept better through personalized learning. But a very good way of learning is by looking at the code created by other developers around the world. So there are an amazing number of developers doing really amazing stuff out there, and they have open sourced a lot of the code base on GitHub, GitLab, CodePen, and a lot of other websites. So let's say uh, I've gone to GitHub, I have seen a code, I have copied it on my system, and the code is for building a chat website. All right, the chat website has already this left section built, which has this close and hide sidebar button. We have this new chat section. If I add a title, for example, dummy chat, it gets added to this left side. All right, so not a very amazing UI, but all right, a small project for me to get started with. Now the problem is when I look at its code base, so we have chat website. I think this is it. Let me quickly run it once. Yes, so it has this index.html code. We also have styles.css, a lot of CSS, and we also have this small JavaScript code, but I have no idea what's going on. All right, I have tried looking at the HTML, but it seems too complicated, right? Maybe that is not the case with you. Maybe you are a little more advanced in your coding journey and you have a lot tougher code. It does not matter, the process will be the same. I'm giving you a basic beginner friendly example, but the logic, the prompts will remain the same to help you understand this code base a lot better and even modify it for your use case later on. So let's quickly get started with learning how you can learn to code by exploring other people's code base using ChatGPT. So as always, you will first have to mention I'm learning website development, but I'm having trouble understanding a project's code. Some context is very important. So you have mentioned the context. I'm learning web dev. I'm having trouble understanding a project's code. The project is building a fully functional chat app. It is very important to ChatGPT, it is very clear what the end goal expectation of that code is. What are you trying to achieve? The project is trying to build a fully functional chat application. And what do I want ChatGPT to do? In the next messages, I'll be sharing with you the code, the project's code. I need your guidance in working on the project and help with the project. All right. So now code is here, ChatGPT is here. So what do? We simply copy the entire HTML code. We mention to ChatGPT, here is the HTML code. And at the end, you can mention, keep it noted for now. You don't even need to mention that. And because in the start, you have already mentioned that I need guidance in working on the project, what ChatGPT will do, it will try to assess this HTML code and understand it. So here is what ChatGPT replies. You have shared the HTML code for the chat app. It looks like the structure is well organized. Great. And it includes elements for the left pane, which has list of chats and some buttons. So if you notice, we have the code for left pane, which has a list of chats and some buttons, a profile section, and a placeholder for the main chat area, right pane. So we have this right pane as well, but it is just a placeholder, no real content. So ChatGPT is able to understand the code well, and it is also helping you get a grip of what is happening in the code base. It is very important that you read through this, and if you want, you can even ask ChatGPT to explain it to you in much more detail. All right. If you have specific questions, all right. It is also asking that, hey, please give me CSS and JavaScript files. So it understands it's a web dev project. It will have other pieces of code as well. So what I've done is I've copied the CSS code as well, and I've pasted it here in the exact same way. By the way, I've simply written here's the CSS code and pasted the entire CSS code. You can also paste the entire HTML, CSS, JavaScript code at once, but it may exceed the total, prompt length count. There is a limit to how big a prompt you can write. So just to ensure that it doesn't get confusing and the prompt doesn't get too big, we are dividing the code base in pieces. Once CSS has been written, now ChatGPT is also explaining the code base, which is great for you, the developer who is trying to learn. So let's go through some key parts. The first thing we have done in the CSS is reset default styles. If you notice, margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box, applied to star. So we are resetting default styles here. And it is also explaining the code further. This part resets the default margin padding for all elements and ensure that box model is set to border box for consistent sizing. This property is being used for consistent sizing. If you don't already know about this, you can go ahead and ask ChatGPT or learn more about it on Beyond Exams, YouTube, or W3 Schools or some other website. Then we have body styles, and it is explaining each of these sections within the CSS, which is superb. I think it is on the right track. It has understood the HTML code well. Now it is also trying to understand the CSS code. Similarly, I've pasted the JavaScript code, and again, so what happens is most of the coders who are starting with web development, they get to understand HTML and CSS first. But if you are from a non-coding background, maybe you are doing BSc in physics, maybe you are doing BTech in electrical engineering, and it is the first time you are diving into code, JavaScript becomes the difficult part. HTML, CSS is easy. It's just structure, layout, and styling. But JavaScript is the logic, the brains behind it. So in case you don't understand JavaScript code, well, ChatGPT will go ahead and help you understand the code of JavaScript as well. In JavaScript, we have document.add event listener. Code inside this block runs when the DOM content is fully loaded. If you don't know what DOM is, you should go back and go through the HTML, CSS tutorials, because DOM is one of the fundamental things that you learn in JavaScript. I think the very first tutorial on W3 Schools JavaScript is about DOM itself. There we go, DOM intro. So please make sure you go through it. It is a very important concept. This ensures that JavaScript code runs after the HTML document has been completely loaded. All right. It is also explaining, in case you don't want to go to the trouble of reading all the documentation and video tutorials, just read ChatGPT's version and it's good. Then we are defining some HTML elements. Then we have code for close sidebar event, show sidebar event. So this action, close sidebar, show sidebar, is being controlled using these two pieces of codes, and so on. Great. Overall, this JavaScript code enhances the functionality of a chart tab by allowing the user to close and show sidebar, as well as dynamically add new chart items. This JavaScript code is also helping dynamically add this new chart item. Great. ChatGPT has understood the code well. Now, let's say you are not able to understand what is happening in this new chat button code, right? It is saying const chart item is equal to document.create element, then it is adding a class list, then it is doing some inner element HTML thing, then it is appending child to list of charts. I have no idea what's happening here. All right, then we also have this prompt. So how do I learn what's happening in this code that I copied from somewhere else? This is someone else's code, right? So write it down to ChatGPT once you have shared all the code. Explain the new chat event listener. Explain this new chat event listener. Make sure the terminologies are right. Don't try to be too vague. Don't allow ChatGPT the opportunity to hallucinate, to give you wrong answers. Be as precise, as clear as possible. Explain the new chat event listener JavaScript code in a way that I can use it in another project. This is very helpful tip when talking to ChatGPT. If you are asking it for explanation and mention this, I want to use it in another project, ChatGPT tries to explain it in a way that you understand the different parts, the different moving parts within the code. And once you understand the different moving parts within the code, you can easily choose a part and use it somewhere else. You can take apart another part and use it somewhere else, right? So this is a very cool hack if you simply mention that I want to use it in another project. Or another thing is Eli 5. Eli 5. This means explain like I'm 5 years old. If ChatGPT can explain this concept to a 5-year-old, anybody can understand it. So Eli 5, if you mention that Eli 5 this code, it will explain to you the code as though you're a 5-year-old, and it simplifies the stuff. So the new chat event listener is provided responsible for handling creation of new chat, and then it is explaining specific code. This prompt thing was being used to display a dialog box which was asking the user to enter a chat title. This chat title entry option is what is being controlled using this, and similarly it has explained every single term and also explaining how you can adapt this code for another project. Replace new chat button with the actual reference of the your new chat button, modify the styling, adjust references, and you'll be good to go. Great. So this is one way how you can understand somebody else's code, but that's not good enough, right? You don't just want to understand, you also want to build. So let's say you have seen this code and you feel, hey, this is great, but I wish instead of this default shitty looking pop-up, I could have a customized pop-up of my own. Okay, great idea, Pankaj, but how do I implement it? I don't know coding as much. Well, you know prompt engineering, so let's use that. I have already given it the entire HTML, CSS, and JS code for this. Now let's use the same concepts that we have learned so far. Be as specific and detailed, describe your end goal, and that's it, I think. So there we go. It has taken up all the code. Just a second. There we go. Okay. It has explained the code as well. Now what we want to do is, okay. When new user clicks on new chat button, when a user clicks on new chat button, I want to remove the existing dialog box. What do I want to do? I want to remove this existing dialog box and implement a custom dialog box. Help me implement this and also explain how you did it. You can simply write help me implement this if you just want the code to run it, but it is very important that you have your fundamentals clear. You should understand what is happening in the code that you are copying and pasting. Do not be too much dependent on ChatGPT that, hey, the code it gives is usually right, let's copy paste everything and I don't really care what's happening inside the code. Because what's gonna happen is, very soon in the future when you are building much larger projects, ChatGPT will hallucinate, ChatGPT will go wrong, and if you as developer do not know what's happening inside the code, it will be impossible for you to take on the responsibility of fixing what ChatGPT broke. So I always prefer writing and also explain how you do it. This actually also helps ChatGPT do better, perform better. Why? Because I'm asking it for explanation. If it cannot justify its action, that means there may be a chance that it is going wrong. So by understanding how ChatGPT has done it, it helps me also understand, okay, ChatGPT has understood the same thing that I wanted it to understand, wanted it to implement. There is no chance of confusion left. So, and as you saw here, I didn't just write create a custom dialog box. You will have to mention the action, the trigger point. What is the process that's going to happen after the trigger is activated? So what was the sixth trigger? When user clicks on new chat button, what do you want to do? I want to use a custom dialog box. Great. But I also want to remove the existing dialog box in the code. Mention every action that you want ChatGPT to do. Otherwise, in larger projects, you will have a lot more loose ends remaining in the code base because you did not give right instructions. And at the end of the day, you will feel that, hey, ChatGPT does not work well with big projects. No, let me tell you, ChatGPT can help you build very large scale projects, but you need to understand how to use it well. And one of the things is explain to it very clearly each action point that it should complete so that your task is properly done. So it has written down the code to implement a custom dialog box. You can create a model. It is a step-by-step guide. Firstly, modify the HTML. You can add this code after the HTML code. Then have some CSS. Then it is also updating the JavaScript code. Then it is explaining to you exactly what it has done. And if I simply copy paste this code in index.html, it said at the end, I'll paste it here. Similarly, the CSS code, it is asking to paste this in CSS. So I'll copy it and paste it at the bottom. I think I've already pasted this code here. And similarly for JavaScript, I'm copying the entire code, but that is not a very good practice. For now, I'm doing it anyway because I want to show you exactly how ChatGPT does it. All right. So the aim was that when I click on new chat, the default dialog box should disappear and we should have a custom dialog box. Let's click. All right. As you can see, the UI is not very good. We did not ask ChatGPT to build the UI, but now it is showing a custom dialog box and we can modify it later as we see fit. Superb. Not only have we understood what is happening in this code I copied from the internet, but now I can also update this code based on what more I want this code to do using ChatGPT. And as you saw, it did not require much knowledge about coding. But here is the catch. Earlier, when I had the original code, this close sidebar was working, right? Now with the new ChatGPT code, this close sidebar is no longer working. Even though new chat is functional, close sidebar is not functional. So this is where you will get stuck and you'll be like, oh no, this was working earlier, it's not working anymore. What went wrong? And you'll be too nervous, too afraid to dive into the code because this will be the first time you're reading the code. And these are the kinds of scenarios. By the way, ChatGPT can help you fix this as well. But these are the kinds of scenarios where you will realize the need for understanding the code base. So do not simply copy paste the code. Always read what ChatGPT is doing. And instead of copying everything that ChatGPT has generated, only copy the bits that seem necessary to you. It will help you become the master coder instead of you becoming the slave who simply copies ChatGPT's code into his or her IDE. So as I can see, we have document.add event listener. We have document.add event listener. I don't need to copy paste that. We have close sidebar button, show sidebar, left pane, list of chats. Show sidebar, left pane, list of chats. Okay, so as you can see, close sidebar button is not available here anymore, and that probably was the issue. ChatGPT deleted close sidebars code. What I will do is I will copy this custom modal code snippets, and similarly new chat button code snippet. It has written so much content. So what it is saying is remove all of that and simply have this one single line, fine by me. And similarly, it is adding a close custom modal function. Great, this doesn't seem to be in the code. And then we have submit chat button. Superb. Now when you refresh it, you will notice close sidebar is also functional. New chat also has this custom box. So this, I hope this video was a lot more insightful for you. Try to build something like this by using a code base from around the internet. Try to keep it small. Don't jump into very big code base because you won't be able to supply all the code to ChatGPT at once. How you can work with bigger projects is something we'll be covering in another video course. So feel free to reach out if you are interested in joining the entire 3 months cohort where we help you build large scale, fully functional projects, not just a crash course of using prompt engineering to learn website development. All right, this is it from my side. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.